Good afternoon, St. Louis, Missouri, Denver, Colorado, Dallas, Texas, Indianapolis, Indiana, Topeka, Kansas, New Orleans, Louisiana, Houston, Texas, Miami Beach, Florida, Detroit, Michigan, Hampton, Virginia, Atlanta, Georgia, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Chicago, Illinois, and Kansas, Missouri, home, a Super Bowl NFL, Kansas City Chiefs, Reverend Lunch to the Mexican Congress for a beautiful, beautiful Saturday, June 10th, 2023. My name is Al, the host and creator along with Elder Alan Lyles. How you doing, Red? How you doing there, Red? Okay, well, I thought we launched that quick there. Okay, okay. And then how's the family doing? Fine. That's good. Thank you moving around there. Okay, that's okay. But Scott, how you doing, sir?
I am more blessed. I'm too blessed to be distressed.
See, you got to change it around over there. Okay, but that's a good thing, though. You're blessed.
I am
we all are
blessed.
blessed.
I am blessed. You betcha.
Okay, and later on we'll be joined by Mr. Chuck DeBow from out of D.C. But right now you listen to Lunch with Tim Let's Human Converse. And we just broadcasting live on FergusonUSA.com. Also on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch from beautiful Wilson Terrace, North St. Louis, and on Missouri. And we're so happy to have you along with us for the next 2 hours. We got some interesting news for you. And right now we're going to start off with prayer. As we always do, you got to have prayer in your life to make things go right. Am I right, Real?
Amen.
What you got for us, sir?
Let's bow our heads. Heavenly Father, we thank you for waking us up this morning for the day we have never seen before and keeping us in our right mind and out of harm's way. Lord, we just thank you for your gospel, how that Christ died for our sin, was buried, and rose again. I continue believing to the saving of the soul, continues to make heaven your home before you sleep and after you sleep. Heavenly Father, we know we're already seated in heavenly places in Christ Jesus. Our name is written in the Lamb Book of Life. And Heavenly Father, we know everything's in your hands. You to bless the sick all in the universe. You know what to do. We don't have to dictate to you. You already done the person because you woke us all up this morning. And Heavenly Father, we know you can do everything but fail. And we thank you for what you have done, what you're going to do, and what you're still doing. And that we have a wonderful fellowship with you in Jesus' most precious name. Amen.
Yeah, I want to thank you. That's a beautiful prayer because right now, God's up blessings down, and as the Bible tells you, what you ask, if you don't get it, you don't ask. You got to pray to get it.
Amen.
So yes, sir. So what else do you have for this here?
Talk about the Christian walk, but I'm coming out of Peter with it. I'm coming from a different form, but the same benefits.
Okay.
Now, people know how. This is why the gospel is so important. Remember when Christ died on the cross, and they pierced him in the side, and out came water and blood? Well, people don't know that water and blood is still out here today, working.
Whoa, okay.
It's working today because Jesus Christ is invisible to us. But he is visible to us too. He's a spirit. And he also, that blood and water is the life of the body because of what his word said. This is the confirmation from his word that the blood, it said without the shedding of blood, there's no remission of sin. So it's the blood that makes an atonement for the soul. That blood that came out inside, is when the Holy Spirit preached the gospel, he takes it all over the universe and convicts spirits to be saved before it's ever too late with that blood and that water, that new birth.
Okay.
And so I'm starting off this 4th chapter has suffered for us in the flesh. Arm yourself likewise with the same mind. For he that has suffered in the flesh has ceased from sin. That's what we're supposed to do as being believers in Christ, is be ceased from sin, like walking by faith and not by sight, preaching the gospel everywhere and anytime when we can, so that souls can get saved before it's ever too late. That he no longer should live the rest of his time in the flesh to the lust of men, but to the will of God. See, we work for God. But I'm just breaking down singing. I'm working for God. I can talk for me.
Okay, you in 1 Peter, what chapter you said?
The 4th chapter.
What verse?
Verse 2.
Okay. I got you.
All right, I'm going to verse 3. It says, for the time past of our life may suffice us to have wrought the will of the Gentiles, when we walk in lasciviousness, lust, excesses of wine, revelry, banquet, and abominable idolatry. God forbid us to do that. He forbid us to do these things. After you took on Christ as your personal Savior, you're supposed to be walking in the newness of life, walking by faith and not by sight. Not being wicked, but being spiritual. Helping the people, loving them, showing. Keeping them out of harm's way by telling them the right thing, telling the truth.
Yes, sir.
Set you free.
How many times we heard that before in our lives growing up?
A lot. And number 4 said, wherein they think it strange that you run not with them to the same excess of wrath, speaking evil of you. That's what they do. Anytime a Christian do something out of place, I thought he was I knew he wasn't no child of God. I knew he was wicked just like we are. Well, I'm going to tell you something about a Christian and a sinner. Ain't no difference in them, but both of them sin.
Okay.
Ain't no difference in them, but both what they have to do is believe the gospel, the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus Christ. Both of them have to believe that. Both men that's in you, the old man have to believe the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus Christ for God to help him.
Yes, that's no lie, real. That's no lie about that, I tell you.
Look at all these people, these wicked people out here in the streets of God that woke up this morning. And they saying they woke themselves up. But God woke them up. Whether they believe it or not.
Yeah.
Look down to him that is ready to judge the quick and dead. See, when you believe the gospel, the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus Christ, he quicken you. Quicken like a clap my hands. That's that blood that goes into you and quicken you and give you eternal life. See, that blood that came from Christ got eternal life in it. See? And that's what you receive from him, is eternal life. And that they might be judged according to men in flesh, but living according to God in the spirit. But the end of all things is at hand. Be ye therefore sober, and watch unto prayer. So he telling you what to do. Watch and pray. That's what he told us to do. Be looking out for him. Watch and pray, and continue to carry on the gospel so souls can get saved before it's ever too late. And above all things, have fervent charity. Come out love among yourselves, for charity should cover the multitude also minister the same one to another as good stewards of the manifold grace of God. If any man speak, let him speak as the oracles of God. If any man minister, let him do as the ability which God gives, that God in all things may be glorified through Jesus Christ, to whom be praise and dominion forever and ever. Amen. It's all about Jesus.
Well, Red, I think that's one of the things nowadays that, I can't say it's gotten lost, okay? It's been removed, okay, from our lives, in all kind of ways. You know what I'm saying? And how, a lot of times, when my meetings that I have, this for yourself, okay, even in kind of get yourself saved, we start out with a prayer, you know what I'm saying? To get us all on the same page.
Amen.
To spread that love, like it says here, you gotta use the hospitality, which is, you gotta show love. I mean, and nowadays, most of what you get a lot of, okay, is matter of fact, you serve up those negativity of evilness so easy now. It just there was a time that if you told a lie, you say, oh, you lied, without lying is just like misinformation nowadays. We'll hold stuff and we're looking at something totally different. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
I just wanted, I was responding to a friend of mine who was traveling, and she sent me a Facebook notice, and she's talking about how the world should work together, and how we're not doing that. And I kind of, responded to her and said, it's a quote from a friend, that we all remember back in the days, as they call it, that, remember Rodney King, he was like the first video beating of a black man out in California, and they beat him so bad. I mean, they beat him so bad, okay, and said they consider Los Angeles to be millions of dollars. Well, it turned out, okay, he wasn't guilty of what they say he was being beaten for, but this man, after being beat so bad, he got what he always said down in Spanish and said, can we all just get along?
Mm-hmm.
depression, but from Canada, as the wind blows, we know the smoke is coming down.
Amen.
And we can't do nothing to stop it.
No, they do nothing about it.
I mean, we just ourselves.
That's why the people need to be born again, get in Christ, and Christ protects us from that type of stuff that comes around.
Mm-hmm.
Because everywhere his people is holy ground. So sin can't come there.
Mm-hmm.
That's what happened in Egypt. When they left Egypt, and when they left Egypt, and they was outside of Egypt, the children of Israel, with the blood mark on the adult lintel, on the top, the bottom, and the side, on those three, the sign of the cross. So the death angel, when he saw that anyone that's in the house that had the blood on the lintel, the firstborn would die. And that was in Egypt. But in Israel, and at Goshen, nobody firstborn died because they had the blood on the altar, and Jesus was protecting them.
Yeah, well, I know right now, even as we have this conversation, the gospel, as we teach it, is more so needed, but our church attendance and stuff right now continue to go down, okay? That's not the way it's supposed to be. Okay.
But hey, Aaron, that's why God told us to go in the world and preach the gospel to every creature. He that hears, believe, and baptized and saved. And he was talking about he that hears, believing, and baptized. It was talking about believing by the Holy Spirit convicting you. You believe before you go in the water. Water don't save nobody. You can go down in the water, wet them, and come up and wet them.
Yeah, well, right now, like you just said, you got to go out to the world. You're going to go outside your church. You got to go where you go where the people are, and just try to let them know what the facts are.
Amen.
We're real loud. We're going to stop right on the word facts. Okay, that's a big word that the Bible stands on, and we stand on. But listen to Ferguson USA, HotPowerRadio.com on a beautiful Saturday afternoon. The weather here in St. Louis is, kind of, going to be another nice day, I should say. It's kind of cooled down a little bit. Hope it's nice where you are. That was Reverend Allen Miles with the pastor on chapter 3. Located at 55 West Central Avenue. Forget me real. That's in North St. Louis. That's 61200. That's the pastor. You just heard it, Allen Miles. The pastor on South Chapter 3, located in North St. Louis. And 55 South That's about, in the one-on-one neighborhood. I will say, Rev, the neighborhood is kind of stabilized a little bit compared to most of the city. So you can go see Rev every Sunday at the Walnut Court, South Chapter 3, 55 so that neighborhood. Thank you so much for Walnut today. And for that message for the day. On the Alabama. I don't know, check it out. black community was the Supreme Court justices denied the drawing of the map in Alabama last Thursday. And on the vote of 5-4 for Justice John Hall Roberts, Justice Brett Kavanaugh Saturday was liberal. What happened here was that every year we always talk about 10 years in the $1 census. Around the country, a lot of maps have been redrawn, where like in some states. Here in Alabama was they had they had 7 congressional districts, and the state by the quarter of the residents of that state are black. They gave them at least 2 congressional people in Congress, but they only got 1. They kind of made them out look at all kind of crazy. They put all the blacks just in 1 district. Well, the court ruled, and they ruled on it. This decision has been debated for a while, because this is what a provision, okay, then when the public gutted the Civil Rights Act of 1965, for voting rights. And doing that, the court decided to go a different route, okay, which is kind of not go against what history has said and been done back in the days gone by. And this ideology has started with back in 2013, when the civil rights, voting rights, black civil rights was just kind of being wiped out. I mean, things were changing, and seeing that the Supreme Court was just going about, taking us backwards where the blacks go. And so in this one piece of the left, because this was these maps, which means every person has 1 vote. They should have their vote should count. And so now we drawing these maps are different. The Republican Party in most of these states have kind of gerrymandered, they call it, and all that stuff, crazy maps, have crazy lines, how they have the blacks on 1 part. Well, in Alabama, the Supreme Court said, we're going to stop that. We're going to be honest with these people here and give them 2 congressional seats in their district. Now, that's a great change, okay, in a district where you got all those people, all black people, all those in Alabama. You got them, and they only got 1 representative, no bunch of blacks. And so now what this means is that in Georgia, in Alabama, I should say, next year they got to redraw the map, and they're going to have 2 Congress people come in from Georgia. I won't say Georgia, okay, but Alabama. And when this happens now, the same thing has taken place when drawing the maps in the state of Louisiana. So that means that Louisiana also has to redraw its maps. And you say, now, what sense of this make? Well, right now, up in Washington, D.C., congressional Democrats and Republicans, are down to like a 4 or 5 seat majority, depending on whether you were there. Well, this is going to give the Democrats additional seats in Congress. Or in Georgia, in Alabama, and also in Louisiana. And this is going to make a lot of difference, okay, in the way our laws will be shaped, and the way things will be done, and give us more, hopefully, okay, more peace, getting along to get things done. Because prior to this, the ideology for blacks and our rights was just being taken away from us bit by bit, bit by bit, bit by bit. And so this is going to change all of that bit by bit, a slow process, but it's going to take place. And also, in doing this, what surprised me, that shouldn't surprise me, Justice Stan Thomas, people in various games with a negative report on the Senate side against the blacks in the country for the most part. You would have thought, okay, it'd be the other way around. As it says, slowly but surely, they have been trying to gut the Voting Rights Act. right now, if you pause the rate, into a skip, you pause might suggest that the Fed won't necessarily raise its benchmark again for a while. And it's skipping time, they probably will not do so right now. So that means that sure this interest rate right now may not increase next week when they announce it in May. And this will affect homeowners, has been making homeowners foreclosures. Start this in your business, my wife's business. They have had over 23,000 foreclosures in the month of May by itself. That's a whole lot of foreclosures. And right now, that may slow that down, and hopefully, the interest rate does not rise. Another thing that's very, very, very mindful was this past week, President Biden vetoed a bill that we had canceled the plan to rebuild the student debt. A lot of students right now have their student debt, around them, they got out of college. And so right now, the Supreme Court, is right now is considering, there's a legal challenge, and that should come down this summer that will say yes or no to all the people are not getting the student debt. Right off their credit reports. And now, this past Friday, we want to talk about this around the country, around the world. The Department of Justice unsealed a 37-count indictment against former President Donald Trump. Now, this is tied to the handling of the classified document after he left office as president. No other former president has ever been facing federal charges, such as this. That's along with the prospects of a lengthy jail sentence. Now, we have heard about this taking place, and we heard about this gentleman by the name of Jack Smith, who was a special counsel represented by Merrick Garland, our Attorney General. But yesterday, counsel for the first time at a press conference where he introduced a 49-page indictment. So this was prepared by Smith and his team. And in it, the indictment details a whole lot of stuff that you would not believe. About these documents, they've been moving around the country, and you look at the pictures and stuff that they have in this indictment. That's we got pictures, documents in bathrooms. They got them all over the place. And it's just unbelievable sight to see this. And documents that's been laid around, and these are top secret documents. You recall a couple months ago, there was a guy that's in the service, a man, and he released some documents online, and they came out and arrested him. The men handcuffed right away, and laid him out. He's in prison now, and he had just faced a few documents. Now you compare what we see in here, I didn't listen to this stuff, and you know what you're going to see, but to see boxes and boxes and boxes. Now Scott, you're in real, okay, he's in the service here, and these boxes that we're looking at now affect all the service people around the world, where they are. So what are your thoughts about this, Real?
Well, if it applies, it should apply to everybody, like our president and all the other folks that have had boxes and boxes of stuff.
Okay, well, Scott, I agree with you 1,000%. But to this point, as you see, documents, but there's been a protracted fight for over years where the National Archives said return those to us, no big deal. But the former president has been fighting, and also along with this taking place, he has an aide, Mr. Walter Nata, who's also been indicted along with the president as his co-conspirator. And why? I mean, he it gets me started. If I ask for my documents back, okay, why couldn't you just return it to me? Well, you know, why is he trying to hold on to them?
Why did the vice president take documents on his own?
Well, Sandy, he found out about them, he returned them right away. He said, hey, they went out and said, here, I found some over here. And they got them right away.
Did they really? We'll find out when truth all comes out.
Well, see, that's the thing about truth, real. We were talking about here, the truth is going to set us on free because one thing about our country, we're supposed to have a fair system. And if okay, that is not true, we're going to find out, okay, and they should pay the same cost.
Yes,
they should go to jail.
Correct.
I'm saying if anybody is guilty of doing this, they should go to jail. I don't care who you are.
I agree.
I mean, that's why I say, you know, you as a serviceman and Rev and other people around the world right now as they travel, people in this top secret places, you know, these are the top secret documents, okay, that people in Congress, Senate, all these people right now, and you know, they I think have to go through top security, top clearances to get these documents.
So why did we not do anything regarding a server that had classified documents all over it?
Right now, okay, oh yes, hold on. All right, I agree with you, Scott, that we should have. Well, right now that is still going on, and on the server, okay, compared to I can't count the boxes here.
Mm-hmm.
And when you have records, okay, just stored there. And like I said, if you talk about what you reference here to Hillary Clinton, okay, that if in fact she did, break the law, she should go to jail.
I agree.
I mean, if anybody does, they should go to jail. And I think, I don't care. I mean, if I did it, I should go to jail. Or if you did it, you should go to jail. I mean, in our country, like we just talked about recently here this week in Alabama, where the Voting Rights Act, survived a challenge there, where the state of Alabama had redrawn the district to take away black voters' rights, okay, and they can go back and redo that. They're redoing that not only for Alabama, but also for Louisiana, because it says we all should be treated equally. And so I agree, this applies to everybody in our country. I don't care who you are. As a matter of fact, right now we got this discussion, but even we continue right now. We're going further. Okay, we're going to take a little small break. My name is Alan, folks. That's Scott Owens. That's Reverend Lyles, better known as the other Elder Lyles. And right now we take a small break. We'll be back with our guest, the judge from Kansas City, Missouri, Martina. Hold on, Scott.
All right.
Welcome back to Lunch with Mr. Material Comments on a beautiful Saturday afternoon. As a matter of fact, our show can be seen live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and also can be found on Spotify And also our program, we broadcast every Saturday on Ferguson USA, HotTopics.com, Facebook and YouTube and Twitch at 1 o'clock on Sundays. And also from 1 to 3, and also on Wednesdays from 1 to 3. So if you miss something here, you can just download it. You can also get a copy of our discussion every week for the last couple of years. You can find that. So today, I'm happy to have with a guest, okay, from Kansas City, Missouri, Judge Peterson from Kansas City, Missouri. And I mentioned Judge, a good friend of mine, ours, okay, M.T. Richardson comes on every Saturday at 5 o'clock on Ferguson USA.com. And she's been a guest, of course, for the MT show, which is coming to Kansas City. And so today, we had a privilege to have with her. Beyond guest, Judge Peterson. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much for having me. It's very good to be here today, and I appreciate you inviting me. I haven't had a chance to be on the air with you for a little while.
Yeah, well, I missed you. We had some nice discussions, okay, about what was going on in the laws, and matter of fact, not only she's a well-known person in Kansas City, okay, but Judge, first of all, tell me a little bit about your background, and what that you
Okay, well, I was a criminal defense trial attorney for about 13 years with the Public Defender's Office. When I first came out of law school, I was a family court commissioner, or a family court judge, basically, for about 9 years after that. And then about 5 years ago, I came down to the Kansas City Municipal Court, where I handle dockets with criminal cases, traffic cases. I run and preside over the mental health court and the reinstatement court there in Kansas City. So.
Okay. Now, also, the good part about what you do in Kansas City is effective also in St. Louis. We have similar courts here. And I think right now, St. Louis and Kansas mirror each other. And that we have a lot of crimes that's taking place. And, and the crime numbers are up. Murders are up, carjackings are up. So now, in your court, what are some of the things that first of all, when you sit right now, some of the cases that you deal in criminal courts, how do, first of all, I should address, every city in the country, we have federal courts being discussed and built in the program. Then you have your state courts, so the jurisdiction for the state. Then you have your city courts, which are your municipal courts. And that's where you will see the judge out here. So now these are the cases that come before people in Kansas City themselves, am I right?
Yes. And they violate city ordinances. The state courts have state laws or statutes passed by the Missouri legislature. And the city ordinances are similar to the statutes that are passed by Missouri legislature, but they're passed by the city council of Kansas City. And so, and they pretty much mirror the ones that are at the state level. We just handled misdemeanors. A lot of them are misdemeanor offenses. Some of them could have been charged as felonies, but we have a range of punishment of up to 6 months in jail we can impose on each charge, and a fine of up to $500. For the state level, they send people to prison for however many years. We don't do prison. We just do jail up to 6 months on these charges that we have.
Okay, now, Judge, help us understand. One thing that I've been talking about for years, that most people are not aware of how a board of aldermen, the city council, what they actually do. So what in this case, the ordinances that they pass or the bills that they pass, like here in St. Louis, our board of aldermen now discussing a bill that would apply to liquor license being redone. And now if somebody violates that law with a liquor license, something like that, are you a traffic stop in Kansas City or like here in St. Louis? This will be coming before your court, am I right?
Well, it depends. I do have some violations of liquor licenses that have come in, like the sell alcohol to minors. They will come into my court because they're charged as it's still considered a quasi-criminal offense. if you sell liquor to a minor. So that would deal with some of those laws. There's some other enforcement agencies that deal with the businesses themselves in some of those circumstances. But I have had some cases of selling liquor to minors that have come in. And then, like I said, we have criminal cases, assaults, trespass, stealing. And we have also traffic offenses, leaving the scene of an accident, speeding, any type of traffic offense that you could have. And most, any type of a lower level criminal offense we will get in as far as the charge of indecent exposure, exhibiting weapons, discharging firearms. And sometimes those things could be charged at the state level. I've had cases in which people have shot at other people. They didn't hit them. They were a bad shot, but noted up in my report. Stabbed somebody. They stabbed somebody. It wasn't enough to make them die or seriously injure them to the point where they filed it at the state level. But we still get those type of cases down in municipal court as well.
See, that's the thing, okay, that I know here, in our community, people don't understand the difference. So now, in your court, when you mentioned some of the cases, what you have served in, the ones on mental health, and that's a case, that's an item there that we have discussed many times, and it comes out because your guns, okay, like gun cases, that's a shooting in Kansas City. Most recently, there was one there, but the young man knocked on the door, and it wasn't in Kansas, in your district, okay, but it was a man the young man knocked on the door, the wrong door, I should say, and he got shot. Now, how, those are the type of cases that come to your court, am I right?
No, that came to the state court. They charged him with a felony of assault because he shot that child and he almost died. So that actually went to the state court in Clay County, which is right next to Jackson County where I am.
Okay, now, so right now, how do people, what is the criteria, how the cases are ruled to felonies or misdemeanors? Who make that decision?
A lot of times what they'll do is the police department will look at a case, look at the seriousness of the offense, look at the background or history of the individual. If you have an assault and it's not as significant as, serious physical harm or somebody ending up in the hospital, sometimes they'll try to figure out whether or not they should file it at the state level or they should file it at the city level. Sometimes they'll send it to the state level and the state prosecutor will look at it and go, I don't think I'm going to file it here, and then it comes down to us and we file it. So it kind of depends on if somebody doesn't have a bad history, even though they have a charge that could be filed at the state level, they may go ahead and charge it at the city level for an assault or a stealing. If they have a significant history, they might charge it at the state level. They might not. I've had people down here that have 30, 40 charges they've had in the system, and they get another stealing charge, and they send it to us. So it kind of depends on the circumstances, but the state prosecutor can file those charges if they choose to on some of them that are referred to them. If they don't, sometimes the victim is not as cooperative or maybe has a bad record, and they may send that down to us and not want to try and pursue prison time or think that they can make that case, and they may send it down to us to try and address it.
So right now, I know a lot of things that I know I read about here, and also on Kansas City also. Some of them have a lot on their records, okay? They've been put on parole before. And how does that work out? What is the determinant factor? Who goes on parole?
Well, parole is something that happens at the state level. Somebody on parole has been released from prison and is serving out the rest of their prison sentence out in the community. If they violate their parole, they go back to prison. We do have people in our courtroom that are on parole, but they're not on parole for charges that we have. We don't do parole. That's strictly state, and after you come out of the prison. We do probation, and I do have a gentleman now in my mental health court that is on parole from a state charge. He is also in my mental health court, and I have a city case with him. And then he also is in one of the specialty courts at the state level for some new charges. So you can have somebody under several different jurisdictions for different offenses, and we just try to coordinate with the other specialty courts so we're not overwhelming them. But we try and stable in the community. Because eventually everybody's going to end up, unless you kill somebody, you're going to end up back in the community eventually. And we want people in the community that are stable and capable of functioning. So we have a number of specialty courts to try and address that. I run a mental health court. We work closely with the mental health treatment providers and drug treatment facilities to get them stable. We have a drug court, we have a truancy court, we have domestic violence docket, we have a compliance docket for domestic violence offenders, and then we have, and a reinstatement court that we also have. So we have several specialty courts. We have a veterans court too. So we have several specialty courts to try and focus on keeping people in the community instead of locking them away and having to come back out with the same problem.
Okay. When you want to kind of, improve their, make them become better citizens, like you said earlier on. So now, okay, so somebody's laying in your court, what about you being that court?
Well, to be in the mental health court, you have to have an offense that is serious enough to be in there. Traffic offenses, we don't normally take people on traffic offenses, but like trespassing, assault, stealing, exhibiting discharge of a weapon, some type of a serious offense that they're looking at possible jail time. We have them hooked into community resources, whether it's University Health or Tri-City or Tri-County or somebody, to provide mental health services and treatment. They have to have a diagnosis. They have to have a mental health diagnosis, and then they have to be participating in services through that mental health provider. And then we address what issues we need to. If they have substance abuse issues, we have to do substance abuse treatment. If they just need to be back on their medication, we work with them on that. If they're homeless, we try to put them in a shelter and then get them into a transitional living program so they have some stability so they can work on these issues. We try to get them into community resources to help them find jobs that they're capable of handling. And so it's kind of a overall approach to just get somebody stable and have them in the community. My program is normally a 6-month program. If you do well with 6 months, don't pick up new charges, don't use illegal substances, come to court and do your treatment, then I dismiss their cases in 6 months. If they don't, sometimes they take a little longer because, they test positive and they don't get credit for some time, or, they have some issues and get into treatment. But usually if they're going to participate in the program, they do, and we graduate them. If not, they can choose to transfer out of the program and just go on a regular docket.
Okay, so right now, get doctor, okay, this is trying to, I won't say I won't do a rehab them, okay, I guess it's rehabilitate them a little bit, okay, get out of the system, am I right?
Yes, the whole plan is to get them stable so they have a place to live, they have a means to eat and support themselves, they're not on drugs, and they're not victimizing anybody in the community anymore. So, because a lot of people, if you can get them on the medication to get them stable, they don't like to go out and commit crimes. They're just doing that sometimes to survive. They're trespassing. They got 14 trespass cases, but they got nowhere to stay because they're cold at night. Or they need some place to stay to get out of the heat or the cold. Or they're stealing something to eat. Sometimes they're stealing alcohol because they got a substance abuse problem. So, we try and address the problem so that they stop committing crimes and they weren't stuck in jail or prison for the rest of their life. Because sometimes it's just a revolving door. You do 6 months, you let them out, they commit another crime, you put them back in. And at some point in time, people want to be able to straighten their life out. Those who want to, we will help support.
And I just one of the things that goes back a couple of years here in St. Louis, just here in St. Louis County, the late Michael Brown, when he was during the time that he was in the prison system, they found that a lot of people in the different cities were putting people back to the system because they wasn't paying their fine, so put them in jail. How that was can't be a fine, but this could put it one of your courts.
Well, what we do, first of all, there's certain offenses. When that came out, the Supreme Court looked very hard at the circumstances and created the Commission on Racial and Ethnic Fairness, which I happen to be a member of that committee. I run the Municipal Court Justice Committee, or the Municipal Justice Subcommittee for the Commission Commission on Racial and Ethnic Fairness. Now, what they looked at is that yes, there's certain offenses.
That's exactly okay. What are the citations, okay, that actually know that you handle and that just activated and was different than before?
Well, what they did was they made some recommendations to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court noted there were certain cases that people could not be put in jail for. So most traffic offenses, unless they're non-minor traffic offenses, people cannot be put in jail for. They are not allowed to be put in jail. You can give them a fine. Now, if people cannot pay that fine, and we find them indigent and cannot pay that fine, we have to give them community service. We're not allowed to put them in jail unless we make a finding that they are choosing not to pay, and then find them in contempt of court, which never happens. But if they don't pay, we used to bring them to court and say, can you pay? We'll put you on a payment plan. We have a payment plan. First payment's not due for 30 days on the payment plan, and then if you can't pay, we will revise the payment plan, come on back in, and then if you are indigent, don't have a job, and can't pay, we give you community service to pay off that fine that you owe. So we very rarely put people in court. The other thing we did was standardize the fees and fines. Some of these fees and fines that municipalities were charging were outrageous, and there is a cap of $225 that you can fine somebody on minor traffic offenses. And so they have a pay system that we are required to use across the state now to normalize the fines and fees that certain municipalities could charge. So they've done a lot to try and reduce that. I don't know anybody who's ever been put in jail. I don't think I've known since I've been down at the court anybody that's been thrown in jail for refusal to pay a fine. Usually we give them community service and call it a day. And so we are trying to make sure that the system is fair and just, particularly with traffic offenses. Nobody should be in jail for that. And so now what we will do if you miss court, we'll put a warrant out for you. But we have a walk-in docket. All you got to do is come down to the court, say, I need a case reset. We'll pull it out of warrant, put it on a docket, and say, come on back down. So, we try to avoid putting people in jail that are not dangers to the community. The people that we have in jail, most of them we have to make a finding, a legal finding, that either they are a failure to appear in court on numerous occasions, or that they are a danger to the community before we can hold them in jail. And we can put a warrant out for them, but as soon as they get picked up, then we usually let them out. And then we don't even put them in, because the warrants that we issue now on most traffic offenses, I'll issue, if they don't appear in court, I'll issue a $100 warrant, 10% to the court, which means that's $10 you got to pay on your ticket. I'm just trying to get you back in court. I need your attention. You come get your business handled. I'm going to give you a bond of $10 to the court on this ticket, and if you got 4 of them, that's $40. Pay that and come back to court, or come to the walk-in docket. I will set your warrants aside. I'll give you a new court date, but you need to come handle your business.
Okay, man. Okay, the St. Louis, other cities in the country have programs that you have in Kansas City.
I do believe that they do. I have spoken to the presiding judge in St. Louis when we were working on, I was working on and still working on a project on driving while suspended or revoked cases to make recommendations to lower the impact of those on people and maybe not have suspensions of licenses as much. So we're still working on that issue, and I had talked to him. When we got our statistics together and saw the number of people that we had licenses suspended for certain things, missing court, he got a committee together to try and increase the number of people to come to court. We're looking at changing the notices that we send to people to come to court. We're doing virtual dockets to allow them to appear virtually in court. I am going to be starting an evening court in the next few months. We're going to pilot that and see how that works in Kansas City to avoid people having to take off work and lose their jobs. So I think St. Louis is also trying to do some of these things. I'm assuming that every court is required to have an ability for people to do community service in lieu of fines if they can't pay them. So that's not just Kansas City. That was required by the Supreme Court in Senate Bill 5 when they passed that, turned into Rule 37. So they require that.
Okay, Supreme Court, okay. The Missouri State Supreme Court, am I right?
Yeah, the Missouri Supreme Court, yes.
Okay.
Looked at and issued rules and regulations that we have to follow in these particular areas. So it's not like we have an option. All the municipalities have to offer community service in lieu of fines if people cannot pay. We have to hold a hearing, make sure that they I'm not sure if every court does. I know Kansas City does. I'm assuming St. Louis does too. But they're working on finding. Yes.
Let me digress a little bit, okay? Why don't you kind of explain to us, okay? How does first of all, how does a person become a judge? Let me go back to, okay, you mentioned the state Supreme Court. Tell us about how the state Supreme Court is proposed, how they get elected to the court, how they calculate, how a person become a justice.
Okay. In most cases, it's a similar circumstance or situation in most judges. It's just a different group that does it. In the state courts, when you're dealing with a regular circuit court judge, an associate circuit court judge, an appellate court judge, or a Supreme Court judge, they have to interview with what's called a judicial commission. That's 5 people that are put together on a panel. Usually they're appointed, 2 are appointed, or one's appointed by the governor, and that's a community person. The appellate judge for the state court is on there as the presiding person over it. And in the state court, you got 2 lawyers, a Republican and a Democratic lawyer that is selected by the lawyers to put on the judicial commission. And then I think that, like I said, there's one appointee by the governor, and that's a community person. I think just one, might be 2. But there's 2 community people on there, 2 lawyers, and then the appellate judge that selects. It's on the commission for the state court judges. They select a panel of 3. They send them to the governor, and then the governor picks one of the 3 to put on the state court. They do that similar to the appellate court. They do the same thing, but it's a different commission of 5. Okay, a different group for appellate judicial commission in the state. And then the Supreme Court, there is a judicial commission that they interview the people interested in Supreme Court positions. Then they recommend 3 to the governor, and they pick one of the 3. Now, when you get to the municipal level, it's a little different. At the municipal court, I had to interview with the city council, and the city council, well, what happened? Well, there's a judicial commission for the municipal court as well, and they pick 3. So, and then of the 3, then the city council selects the one that they want in as the judge. So that's the process I had to go to at municipal court. So it's kind of similar to everybody in that there's usually a panel that picks out of everybody that applies 3 candidates, and they are sent on to whoever to make the selection for that position. So most of the time it's the governor. Sometimes in the cities or municipal courts it'll be city council.
Okay, now in the case, okay, I know in Missouri, in fact, the system that you just described has been used around the country, okay? It's been a good system, okay, for the judges, am I right?
Well, there's other areas that don't do it like that. This is Kansas City, St. Louis, and the bigger municipalities. In the state of Missouri, at the circuit court level, which is state court, they sometimes have elections. So in some of the smaller areas, like I think Columbia, maybe Jefferson City, or whatever other counties, the judges have to run, and they are selected. So we're called a partisan court plan here in Kansas City and St. Louis and the bigger municipalities. Maybe Springfield, I think, is part of it. But some of the smaller ones, the judges actually have to run and are elected in an election. And so it's a little different. There's 2 different systems in the state of Missouri that they operate. In a nonpartisan plan, which we have, like I said, in the bigger cities, they have a commission that selects and sends it to the governor. But in the smaller counties, the people actually elect. And then that person's name is sent to the governor and he appoints them.
Okay, and so now, how long is your term for, when you get up on, what is your term? You just have a limitation, how long you can serve, how does that work?
In Kansas City, for the city municipality, I serve 4 years. I put on a ballot, and I have to be retained. So I've been selected until the people decide to vote me out, or I quit. One of the 2. And the same thing at the state level. You have to be in the nonpartisan plan. They have to have an opportunity to vote on you every 4 years. So in St. Louis and Kansas City, we're on the ballot for people to vote on us to see if they want to retain us in office. And then, like I said, the other places they run elections. So the people pick them there.
I know from working in elections, on both sides, running elections, and people go to
actually on the ballot this year, this month. I think it's this month, the 20th, I think is when they vote. I'd have to double check the date. But, yeah, so I'm on the ballot for this year. I think I was on the ballot when I first got on, like a year into it, or less than a year into it. I was on the ballot because that was the position I took over for the judge before me, and they had that set schedule. And so this is my second time for retention here. So yeah, and you are correct. With the particularly municipal court judges, since we're not running against each other, we just end up on the ballot, and a lot of people don't have information about us. And same thing with in the Kansas City and St. Louis when you're talking about the judges that are already appointed. They just have to be retained. And so there is one thing that they did for the state court judges. You can go on the Missouri Bar's website, and they have a group, a commission that's put together to review the judges' performance and give them grades A, B, C, D, or whatever, and then they make a recommendation to retain or not retain. And they have that based on comments from attorneys that have appeared in front of them, based on looking at decisions that they have made and how they've applied the law. So they look at a lot of different factors, and then they give them a grade, and they make a recommendation to retain or not retain. They put that out there for the public to see in case they don't know who the person is or any information about them. And that helps them get an idea of whether or not they think this judge is doing a good job in their position. So they do that at the state level. They don't really do that at the city level. When you talk about municipal courts, that's city courts. They don't really do that at the city level, and maybe we need to do a better job of doing that. But there's just so many municipalities across the state versus state courts that it's kind of hard to regulate them because some of them have part-time judges, and so it's just kind of hard to regulate some of the smaller cities because there's over 500 some odd municipalities here in Kansas City. And we deal with about 60% of all the cases in the state of Missouri because we have such a high volume that we deal with more people than all of the other courts combined. And so it's kind of hard to regulate the different areas there, but that's kind of how they are up for retention every 4 years, and then they just decide to keep them or not keep them.
Okay, well, I know, even on the state system, the judge get retained. I mean, there's been only maybe one judge, excuse me, that has not been retained. Rarely okay. But someone gets not voted back in.
Yeah, I think there's only been 2 in the whole state history that I am aware of.
Yeah.
And one of them, I do know the one who did not get retained. She was in St. Louis. And
Right. That's what I'm referring to. Yeah.
And that was because I think a lot had to do with it about the newspaper article that was written right before the people went to the polls. It was kind of confusing because they had recommended a retain recommendation on her if they went and looked at the information on the Missouri Bar website. But the newspaper in St. Louis wrote something that was not real favorable, and then they didn't vote her back.
Well, in that case, I can talk a little bit about that. So just the single postage tax, people tell me I think was here in the newspaper here. And this is kind of the power of the press. They wrote several articles, okay, about how she was personally handling her docket, so to speak. And I think, in this case, it was unusual because she was out of the, there's a seal, a signature that she can, her clerk can use, and she was out the country on vacation at the time.
That was not the same one. That was a different judge. That was a different judge in the state of Missouri that was doing that. She got reprimanded. But it's kind of funny because they had also commented that there were some other judges that might have been doing the same thing, but hers got brought to light. She was an African-American judge, and then this other one, was a totally separate, circumstance. The year before she had, I guess, some issues with some attorneys, and they had recommended not retain, but when she came up for retention this last time, those issues had been addressed. And, again, African-American female that they did not retain. So, that's I'll leave that as it is for people to think about.
We see that they're saying that there's not always, they always get retained. There's not always, not an automatic situation.
It is not an automatic situation, and you have to. And the thing is, you have to be careful of what you do. There there's a lot of judges that do some things that may or may not be appropriate, and they should be addressed. But people ought to know, what they're doing, what they're not doing, if things have been addressed, and how they're actually working in a fair and just way. And I think that there needs to be more transparency and more information about each and every judge that is up there so that people know what they're doing, how they're doing, and whether or not they should support them. And I don't think that we do a good job getting that information out about everybody.
Well, I agree with you on that, okay? And that's one reason why we're talking today. We are attempting, okay, and you moving back several more times, more than one time. We're trying to, educate our community about our systems, okay, when it comes to the court system. Most times we hear about what's going on like now, on a national level, but the judges being retained, they'll be okay, and they sometimes even, most people are not aware even how the electoral officials supposed to come together, who they functions are. And so I know they come to the courts, they become even more confused, and so now, let me ask you a question, Your Honor. The person that's a practicing attorney, are they prohibited from any of these courts that we have to work? I'm an attorney now, okay? Just had the board exam. Can I have work as an attorney on a municipal level if I want to, on a state level if I want to, or federal level? So is there any qualifications for a lawyer working on different divisions in the state?
There's usually qualifications at each level. Most of the time, you have to be like a certain age, maybe 30, depending on what position. You have to be, in most cases, a licensed attorney in that particular state, or at least a licensed attorney, and in good standing. And that's, there's not a whole lot of requirements that you have to comply with in order to be able to apply. The hard thing is that you have to have a lot of support to get to the position you want to and to have them select you. So that's where a lot of your experience comes in, because there's a commission that vets you to make sure that you're in good standing, that you have experience, that you know what you're doing. And so anybody can apply. The question is, can you be selected for the panel to be, selected by either the governor or the city council or whoever? And that's where the vetting comes in, is this judicial commission. And the other states, not states, and the other counties where they don't have the bipartisan plan, they have the elections, so they have to go out and they have to give the information to the people in the community to elect them. So I think that, there is some vetting of the people to get on the bench. Where I think we're lacking in transparency is how the people are performing once they get on the bench, and whether or not you should or should not retain them. And I think the Supreme Court has tried to do a better job of vetting the people at the judges at the state level. I think in the municipal courts, we need to do a better job of giving the information to the public about the progress and the performance of the municipal court judges.
Yeah, Your Honor. I know one of the things that you mentioned in your documents that you have, my God, okay, you have quite a few, even in your middle, the cases that you are handling. So what is your normal caseload that you have to deal with?
Well, when we talk about normal caseloads, they've gone down a little bit since the pandemic. At one point in time, prior to the pandemic, the prosecutor was filing about 200 to 250,000 cases a year that we were handling, in addition to the ones that were already filed. And so that's gone down significantly since the pandemic, and some of the officers, they're trying to get the numbers back up, and the officers have fallen off as far as how many officers are on the force, and they're low. So I have a docket for the normal docket for me on certain days, depending on the type of docket. For an arraignment docket or a status docket, I can have up to 150 cases set at 9, up to 150 cases set at 10, and then 50 cases set at 11. Same thing in the afternoon. On my 1:30 docket, I can have up to 150 cases set, 2:30, 150, and then 3:30, I could have up to 50 cases. So on a number of days where you have a high volume docket.
Judge Peterson, do me a small favor. That's a whole lot of cases, okay?
That's a lot of cases.
That's a whole lot of cases, okay? Can y'all explain the difference between those documents that you just said, Attorney?
Okay. Okay, I will do that. An arraignment docket is the first appearance docket where somebody comes to court and you read them what charges you have in the system for them and you let them know whether or not they're looking at possible jail time or just a fine. And I give my people options on finable offenses. You can plead guilty, pay the fine. You can plead not guilty, set it for trial, or you can continue the matter to hire an attorney. If you have a jailable offense, I suggest everybody either go hire an attorney, I continue the matter for them to get an attorney, or I screen them for legal aid to see if they qualify for a legal aid attorney. And so that's an arraignment docket. Once I have them on the arraignment docket, if they don't plead guilty or I don't set it for trial, I set them on a status docket to bring them back and figure out, have you hired an attorney? What do you want to do with your case? And so that's status dockets. Everybody, every division has one. And again, those are the high volume dockets that we can have up to 150 cases per setting. And don't always. Sometimes we'll have 100, and sometimes we'll have 120. So those are those dockets. Now, somebody wants to set the matter for trial, then we put it on a trial docket. And we have trial dockets based on the days that the officer is required to be there. So I have trial dockets every Friday at 9 and 10, and I can have up to 25 trial cases set on each docket. And they can be anything from speeding tickets to parking tickets. Well, not usually parking. We don't do parking anymore. The city is dealing with that. But like speeding tickets, leaving the scene of an accident, they could be stealing, they could be exhibiting a weapon, discharge, assault, whatever. I got 25 spots for cases or trials at 10 and at 9. And we don't always have a full docket of 50 cases. I have had a full docket of 50 cases, but on trial cases, we don't always have full dockets. Sometimes we can have anywhere from 5 to 10 on each docket. On trial cases, then we have special settings that require more time in the afternoon because they have a lot of witnesses or a lot of evidence to present, and those are specially set. So that would be like one case or two cases in Friday afternoon. So those are our dockets, and then I have a probation violation docket. If I put you on probation and you have violated your probation, then I bring you back and I address your case on a probation violation docket. So those are the kind of dockets that we have, aside from our special support dockets.
And also, I should answer this question earlier on. How much of a staff do you have working with you? Your court.
How many what?
The staff you that work with you, secretary or clerk or what?
Okay, I have one clerk, yes. I have one clerk in my courtroom that works with me, and I have a bailiff that works with me. So if somebody, she's the one that keeps peace and the calm in the courtroom. People start to get, a little out of place. She puts them out, or she calms them down. She makes them sit down, stand up, take your hat off, get off the phone, and then answers questions if they're in the wrong place because people always wandering and confused where they're supposed to be. My clerk helps me with my cases. She inputs some information, but I input most of my information as far as, whether they're going to plead guilty or not guilty, and then whether or not it's going to be set on another case where paperless. So I just input it while they're up there and make any notes. There's also a prosecutor on most dockets except for probation violation dockets. There's a prosecutor in there in case somebody wants to plead guilty or I ask them to look at some paperwork. Because sometimes if you bring in paperwork like you got your license or you got insurance or what have you, I'll dismiss some of those cases and they'll look at it and tell me that whatever their license is now valid if it's just a driving without a license, and we'll dismiss that. So I have a prosecutor, and that's the staff that I got.
Can I just, one of the things that happens a lot in the black community, you mentioned earlier on, about people who get violations, that require them maybe losing their driver's license. Can you talk about a little bit how that works?
Yes. There are different ways for you to lose your driver's license. One of them is to have a bunch of points, and people don't understand this. Sometimes if you get a ticket for driving without insurance, you get 2 of those or 3 of those, you're going to have enough points to lose your license, and your license will be suspended. Or if
how many points do you need to lose your license?
It depends, and sometimes it's 8 points and you lose it for a certain period of time. Sometimes if you get to 12 points, you lose it for a little bit longer. Here's a statute out there. If you Google, driver's license suspensions on points, there's a little list that they have there. But it doesn't take a lot to get your license suspended. And if you're driving while your license is suspended, that's a jailable offense. appear in court on certain offenses. If you don't come to court on driving without an insurance charge, or driving while suspended charge, or leaving the scene of an accident charge, the court will send in a request to have your license suspended. It's required by statute. And then people get their licenses suspended for missing court, don't realize that the next thing you know, they get another charge of driving while suspended. And then, you know, if they don't get an attorney to address it, then they're looking at either possible jail time or more points on their license to keep it suspended. So that's another way to get your license suspended, is by missing court on non-minor moving violations. Another way to get your license suspended is by failure to pay child support. Child support enforcement has the ability to suspend licenses if they don't pay their child support. And that's what my reinstatement court tries to address.
Okay, now, y'all know, okay, most of these cases about driving a driver's license, a lot of people suggest they get a lawyer, okay, to represent you. One advantage and disadvantage is that a person will get a lawyer to go to represent you.
The advantage that you can get when you get an attorney is to avoid points being assessed against your license, and also avoid jail time. We very rarely put people in jail for traffic offenses, but if you keep getting traffic offenses and points and driving while your license is suspended because you keep pleading guilty to cases, then you have a higher likelihood of going to jail. But if you get a lawyer, sometimes they can get tickets amended down to like defective equipment where it's a non-point moving violation, or they can get you on a probation, suspended imposition of sentence probation that would allow you to continue to drive, not have points assessed against your license if you successfully complete that probation. So having an attorney assist you is always better than just trying to handle it yourself, because you're going to have a better outcome. But sometimes people don't have money to pay an attorney, and legal aid only handles jailable offenses. So it is unfortunate, but that's kind of the circumstance that people are in at municipal court, level.
Well, I know here, I got a problem to stay a lot of things. I mean, problem from the state. A lot of people have that problem, losing their job because sometimes they don't understand the system, how it works.
Exactly. And I think there needs to be more education out there for people to understand how the system works, so that they don't end up losing it. They think they're handling their business and taking care of what their responsibility, and all they're doing is ended up paying all these tickets to get their license suspended. So if they had more information, it'd be helpful.
Well, I guess the next question, is there any place, since everything's going online now, is there anything place they can go to have that explained to them, or something that possibly could be developed that can make that? I think that's a thing that a lot of people would like to know about the point system. First of all, and then the second part would be about how do the advantage of having a lawyer, first of all. I think that's always the best thing to do to afford, like you just said.
Right. There is one organization, a nonprofit organization here in Kansas City, and it works in Kansas City, Kansas as well, that came up called Project Greenlight. They came up trying to assist people in paying reinstatement fees, registration fees, sometimes insurance premiums for a month or two, help with minor repairs, so people can get their cars and their business handled, so they can get their driver's license back or not lose it. I was working with them when they approached me, and I had recommended that they try to do some classes for the people in the community to educate them on when they need an attorney, how some of these things are going to impact them and their license and their freedom. And they seem very interested in trying to get some classes together and get some attorneys out there to present them, because I think that's key for a lot of people. It impacts everybody across whatever economic category you happen to be in. The poor to rich, everybody's going to get a ticket eventually. Is going to have to get their car registered and have issues with that eventually. And so I think that if we could regularly put on some of these classes for people in the community, they'd have a better idea of how to handle their cases, when they need to hire an attorney, and would probably be less people losing their licenses and less anxiety coming to court.
Yeah, I think this whole system, well, first of all, we just been joined by Mr. Chucky Bowe, who's our national CEO of the NFSU Commerce, and Chucky
think that we need to do a better job of explaining that. We have actually been trying to reach out to the community and do a better job of being more user-friendly and being more informative for people so that they can get their matters resolved. I know we're not out here to punish everybody. We're not out here to put people in jail. And so people need to understand and recognize that.
We're looking for the conversation.
Thank you. It's a real issue, and I can understand it. We have approached it from the commercial drivers aspect, and when you have a problem with your license, you can't work. And so it's a real issue, and anything we can do to help be supportive certainly are welcome, and we're willing to do what we can to help the matter.
And that's one thing, but one thing that it looks like human commerce, I can be of assistance, and I just listen to what you've been saying here, and I see a whole lot of ways, okay, that we can be somewhat helpful, okay, and try to educate the people on the street, even sometimes even some business owners, okay, this affects the business owners. You can't go to work, they can't go to drive them, and they're now driving nowadays, Ubers, food delivery services, a whole lot of things now affect the driver's license, that affect your daily lives more so than ever before.
Exactly, and people have to work, so people, instead of, abiding by my license has been suspended, they're going to drive, and then they're going to get picked up for driving while suspended and revoked. And eventually their license is going to get revoked, and it's going to cost a whole lot of money to get their license reinstated, which is money they don't have because they can't get to work. Most of the jobs, 90% of all jobs, are not on the bus line. And so, people got to work. Can't necessarily find a job real easy on the bus line that's going to fit with trying to, support yourself. So it's a frustrating circle that people get caught up in.
I'm going to say this, okay, and don't laugh when I say it, okay?
Okay.
I remember when I first met you, we were doing the 5 o'clock show with NT Richards, okay? You came on, and I was saying, I said, my God, she talks faster than I do, okay? And just a few minutes ago, when you explained to me, us, I should say, your different dockets, okay? Judge, why don't you explain one more time the docket that you have in any given week? I'm going to tell you how many cases do you have on each docket?
Okay, I will slow down. I do speak fast. I think that's a habit of being a defense attorney, trying to get everything in the amount of time I have to in cases. But I do have a number of dockets. We have 5 or 6 different dockets that we handle at the municipal level, because we have traffic cases and we have criminal cases. Most of the cases are handled this way in all of the systems, whether it's the state system or whether it's a federal system. Everybody usually has some type of first arraignment or initial arraignment where people are read their charges so they know what they're charged with. And then most of the time we give them an opportunity to plead guilty. If it's a fine, they can pay a fine. Or if they decide that if it's a bailable offense, I don't necessarily let them plead guilty unless, they can if they want to, but I suggest they get an attorney first or pre-screen them for legal aid so that they can have somebody represent them and don't end up in jail. So they can plead guilty at an arraignment docket, not guilty, or continue the matter. Most cases get continued so people can talk to attorneys. Sometimes if it's a traffic offense, they want to plead guilty, pay a fine, and just go home. And so, or, like I said, they can set their matter for trial. If it's a finable offense, we'll set their matter for trial on that day. So the initial arraignment is when they find out what their charges are and figure out what they might want to do. If they decide they want to continue the matter so they can consult with an attorney or decide they want to do something different with their case, then we set it on a status docket where you come back in 30 to 60 days and then let me know, did you get an attorney? Are you going to get an attorney? How do you want to handle your matter? Once they decide to either set it for trial or plead guilty, then if they plead guilty and get put on probation, if they have a probation violation, violation, then I have a probation violation docket that I have cases on where people have violated their probation. Either they haven't done a class they were ordered to do, or they had contact with somebody they weren't supposed to, or they picked up a new charge for the same thing. And that's a probation violation docket. We also have attorney status dockets where attorneys will put their cases on to either send them for trial or to plead them out. Instead of the status dockets are just for people without attorneys, because you have to explain a little bit more to the people who don't have attorneys kind of what's going on, and just explain their options a little bit more than you have to explain to attorneys because they should know their job. So those are the kind of dockets that we have in general.
I kind of misspoke. I should have said how many cases you have on each docket.
Okay. Okay, well, if I have like an arraignment docket, or a status docket, or an attorney status docket, those dockets will have up to 150 cases per docket. So I have a 9 o'clock docket with up to 150 cases on it. I have a 10 o'clock docket with up to 150 cases on it. I have an 11 o'clock docket with up to 50 cases on it. In the afternoon, I will have a 1:30 docket with up to 150 cases on it. I will have a 2:30 docket with up to 150 cases on it. And I will have a 3:30 docket with up to 50 cases on it. And usually, and let me take that, I have a legal aid docket too. When people apply for legal aid and qualify, I have a legal aid docket, which is kind of like an attorney status docket for indigent people. And so I can have the same amount of cases on each one of those dockets. Usually my arraignment, my attorney status docket and my legal aid docket are full. I usually have 150 on 9 o'clock and close to that on 10. But, and then same thing with my attorney status, those are always full. On my arraignment docket, they're not always full, and not everybody shows up in court. So I might have 100 cases set, and I may only get, usually 20% of the people show up on arraignment dockets. And so, and some people might have more than one charge. So it's not like 150 people show up at the same time. Sometimes I'll have anywhere from 10 to maybe 40, or maybe a little bit more depending on the day and they feel like coming in. So.
Well, so that's my point. You're talking fast, okay? You do all those dockets, okay?
I'm moving my dockets.
You're moving that docket, though.
Yeah.
Well, I think it was, I'm sorry, but right now, okay, we got to move on here, okay? I want to thank you for your time. It's okay. So you've been very, very helpful, okay, to our listeners about the systems, okay? But especially at the municipal level and how the systems work, how they come together, okay? But I know right now, Chuck got a whole lot that we want to talk about, so I want to thank you for joining us today. And we will come back again, and also I'll reach out to you, okay? We can be of service, okay, to you, okay, and educate some of the people that come into your system, getting the word out about what they need to do, what they don't need to do.
Okay, well, thank you very much for having me. Anytime you ask, I'll be happy to come on and share whatever I can with you. Thank you so much for your time, what you do for the community.
Thank you so much, and have a beautiful weekend, and life is good.
You too. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Ladies and gentlemen, looks like we lost Mr. Folks. Please stand by while we get him back on the line.
Welcome back to Lunch with the Missouri Light Show. Comments on this beautiful, beautiful series here in St. Louis and around the country. And we just had a beautiful, informative guest. When I first had been judged on from Kansas City, Judge Martina Peterson, and she kind of gave us a rundown of the system, how Canada told me what he needs to do. So now, okay, we have been joined by Mr. Chuck DeVoe, the third CEO of the National Chamber of Commerce, and he has a whole lot to talk about also, Chuck. How you doing, sir?
I'm fantastic. I hope everyone else is as well. In spite of the challenges that we face on a day-to-day life of this universe, a lot to
You don't want to get caught up in the legal system, and that's what this segment we just did, okay? We just let you know that you get into that system, get you a lawyer. That's the best thing I do if you can. Know somebody that knows the system, because don't try to do it by yourself.
Well, it's a racket. I mean, is it ever a racket? And we're underrepresented and we're over-prosecuted. Normally, we fall into the default. But that's a whole nother can of worms to open up there.
Yes, sir.
But Ira, the issue remains that no matter what we say or do, what is it that's going to make the change? We don't know that. We don't have the answer.
We don't have the slides. At least I know I don't. And,
it's on both sides. The system is rigged up against lower income people, regardless of your ethnicity. But NBCC, we tried to address that, and we had a partnership with Prepaid Legal, where for a monthly subscription, back at the time it was about $10 a month, you had a lawyer that you could call, and they even gave you a card that you give to a officer when you're pulled over. And I believe, it helped that they had somebody, but they found that it still came down to the type of cases that were coming up. You still needed some money. So that one is almost kind of like we're dealing with the aftermath. It's like when you do get out, what happens then? Because you're parked.
yes.
And your society is stacked against you with a felony on your record. There's so many licenses, jobs, and things like that you can't have. So you almost are forced to start a business. Even we were trying to get it to where barber shops and beauty shops, they would accept you with a jacket, a criminal history file. And then there's we work closely with Congressman Danny Davis out of Illinois, and there were several others that they were able to restore the right to vote, and I think that made a big difference.
That's what I want to talk about today, because we just hit it on the head. I just was talking about the program, and this week, okay, the Supreme Court ruled, okay, in favor for the first time in a long time, okay, of that law. It didn't take away from it. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Which law we
lot of things for black and black community. For family, rights not be taken from another and retain some rights. That's all.
Yeah, I'm not too familiar with that one, but there's so much going on. We're dealing with a lot of things.
Well, your page is full, Chuck. I know.
Well, but it always is. So let's not end it. The big one that's coming that we're watching for is when the issue on affirmative action comes up. And there's a lot of, you know how they set those dominoes up to make those, when one falls, they trigger all these other things to happen. It's set up something like that, that when affirmative action is taken out, then they're looking at every angle to see how we could roll back or how we can do different things. And that has a lot to do with the call to action that we're making to prepare. And we're really talking about people that care, people that want to do something about it, because everybody, they don't want to hear what we're talking about. So they will suffer the consequences. There will be consequences. That's really where we're coming, what we're talking about. But I don't know. I just think that we can only do so much if we do all that we can, and then let the chips fall where they may. But that's just my thing.
Okay, well, Chuck, right now, I think one of the most important things we talk about right now, okay, is our convention, the convention in Atlanta, Georgia, in August. Let's get off into that. I think that's something that we need to do at the time we have got. And because it's going to be we have a convention. There's a lot of things. We have a lot of information, a lot of good people there. So tell us about what we got going on there.
We're really excited in getting a positive feedback. It is the National Black Business Conference. And the theme of the conference is We Are Together. We being the people. We, not only business owners, but the convening is between the National Business League, the World Conference of Mayors, and the National Black Chamber of Commerce. So you have suppliers, buyers, the public policy that comes about out of the black towns and settlements, and then you have all that NBCC represents, and a lot of that is vaulted into the global economic development piece. This conference represents it's the first time in global history, and we're celebrating 123 years as the nation's leading black business organizations, aligning towards a unified black business agenda in commerce. So this whole thing we've just been talking about with the legal system and all that, that's part of the policy. That's part of what we can join the discussion, but with some understanding position where we bring in the experts and say, what shall we do about it? How do we affect this? What can we do? And we're going to have to do it as a group, because any one individual is just, just listening to her almost gives you a headache, because she's talking about 150 cases in an hour.
Right.
5 minutes, gentlemen.
Yeah. So anyway, the conference, let me just say this. You can go and learn all about the conference at nationalblackbusinessconference.com. It's nationalblackbusinessconference.com. It's August 23rd through the 27th in Atlanta, Georgia. And it will be...
You gotta say one more time, Chuck.
nationalblackbusinessconference.com. nationalblackbusinessconference.com. So if you just remember National Black Business Conference, you're going to find it. But it's during these unprecedented times, and certainly post the pandemic, we're experiencing still the continuation of economic exclusion, oppression, and uncertainty. And this conference is going to assemble the world's most influential entrepreneurs, professionals, corporate partners, political dignitaries, and businessmen and women. And over 3 days. It's business-driven education, networking, exchange, activity with events and functions tailored to meet attendees and partner expectations, assessing the combined alliance of 120,000 members, 400 plus chambers, and leagues of businesses throughout the country and abroad. So we're going to have one day is dedicated just to Pan-African diaspora. We're going to have delegations there from a number of different countries. We're going to have our government leadership from entities that are concerned for international relations and commerce development. So that's particularly Prosper Africa, which is where all the money is dispersed for, like when you heard about all those African leaders coming to Washington last December. A lot of those funds were coming through Prosper Africa. They gave out $44 billion during that week alone. And so we're kind of following up with that, saying, all right, so how that money going to be spent? Is there a way that we can be included in that economic development strategy that will allow it to not just go to the same usual corporations? So we're pretty excited about it. You're going to be hearing a lot more as the time comes along. But you can go to nationalblackbusinessconference.com, get more information, register for it. We'd certainly love to have a delegation from the Missouri Black Chamber of Commerce. And we'd like to hear from you and find out what your interests are. There'll be a matchmaker where you can register and you can have an appointment set up to go and talk to where we believe it could be 125 different corporations that'll be there talking to you about how to do business with them and get registered. And then we're going to have similar kind of thing for African American and African businesses to be the partner. And we're going to teach you how to do business with each other, namely in the sense of logistics. If you sell something to somebody in another country, how do you get it? How do you send it? How do you get paid? You know, those are all the issues and things that are associated with these topics.
Well, right now, Chuck, I think once you go to that website, it's kind of, tells you just follow that, go to the menu at the top there, and get the drop downs, and you get the registration there, which is, member of the chamber, okay, it's a discount for you. You advantage front, okay, get in contact with your local chamber, especially here in Missouri. We have to do that the best way we can, make sure we get a good delegation coming there, Chuck. Okay?
That's a very good point. It's valid. Get with the Missouri Black Chamber of Commerce and let us know your interest, and we're going to do everything we can to get you there, get you very much involved.
Yeah, and right now that's up on our agenda item right now. To get that done, and right now the response is getting better every day. They got the agenda out, Chuck, and it's just fascinating with what we got going on. Matter of fact, next week we're gonna do Chuck at the 2:30 hour, okay, to get so you listen to on your time and kind of fill us in a little bit about some of the comments and stuff. Who's gonna be there, and how what advantage you are that's y'all to the conference. You can understand it in detail, so they want to be confused about what's going on. That's okay with you.
Oh, that sounds great.
So as you use your the clock doesn't wait for no one. And Chuck, I want to commend you again. Putting together a hell of an opportunity with great people here for us to be out this 123rd come together conference, and it's exactly what it said. I want to thank you for your leadership. I want to thank Reverend Loud, Stephen for his continued spiritual advising, and Scott for keeping us on the air and getting nice stuff. My name is Al Post. My name is Al Post. I hope you create along with the team. Last student have a beautiful safe weekend and be safe. And also wear your face, man, for these clouds are out here, and life will be safe.
Amen.
Amen.